Hey everyone, this is Jedi from OpenForge, and during this video we're going to show you how you can build an Ionic mobile app using Vue.js, Firebase, and Capacitor. Now, we had a little fun with this meetup and with this video, and when we created it during one of our online Ionic meetups. So this video is split into two parts. If you'd like to meet some of our digital community, I'd encourage you to watch the first part of the video for some fun introductions and humor. If you want to just get to the technical implementation piece, that's okay. Please skip ahead to about the 11-minute mark, and the exact timestamp can be found in the description below. So please remember, if you like this content and want to learn more about mobile applications and how to build them, please hit the like and subscribe button. They're somewhere down there. And with that said, enjoy the show. It's kicking ass. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we have I know, Claudio, I know you said we have a lot to go over today, so I don't want us to, take too much time. But just to start off, welcome. I mean, we got some some old faces here. We got some new faces too. So it's great to meet you guys. Maybe Claudio, do you think we have time to just go through a quick round of introductions?
Sure. I'll start. So yeah, my name is Claudio. And yeah, I am a lover of words and writing utensils. So how about you, Jedi?
Yeah. So Jedi Weller, I'm the founder of OpenForge, developer by trade. Now the company has me doing more biz dev stuff, so I don't get to tinker as much as I used to, but I've slowly this year been getting back into it, so I'm very happy about that. And are we doing a question, Claudio? Was there a question? We always do questions.
Oh, if you can invent a new sushi, a Frankenstein between another food and a sushi, what could it be?
Ooh. All right, so I love sweet sushis, like stuff with pineapple in it. So maybe I would combine a pina colada and sushi, and I can get drunk and have my sushi too.
Oh, interesting. I think I'm gonna have to go with I don't know how possible this is, but an ice cream sushi. I don't know how many different textures you'd be able to get in there, but I think you can make it work.
Fried ice cream, that could work, yeah. Yeah. Let's see. I'll pick someone to pass it to. Richie, you want to introduce yourself?
Good morning. My name is Richie. I am still training in React. I kind of stalk you, Jedi. So whenever you have one of these, I'm learning from you. And spicy tuna, and I'll have some ice cream after. And I'm sober, so I'll have a ginger beer.
Awesome, Richie. I love your background. You have a lot of stuff there.
Got a lot going on.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's super cool. I'm actually envious. I've always liked, like a very busy space, but my problem is that I do a horrible job at shopping. So I never have stuff. But now that I moved with my girlfriend, she's been shopping for both of us, to say the least. And who are you passing to, Richie?
I'm sorry?
Oh, you want to pick someone to pass it to?
Oh, okay. Greg.
Hey, Greg Marine, a software developer by passion, also running my own business, so I'm wearing many hats right now. But as far as the fusion sushi, I would go with a Mexican sushi, since they have sushi is about rice and not about necessarily raw fish, so they have a great rice down in Mexico, and so I think that anything related to the Mexican food palette would be a fun sushi experience.
Yeah. And
Greg, you have an excellent recipe in your website that I've been meaning to try.
Which one?
The shrimp tacos.
Oh, shrimp tacos. Yes, those have been very popular in my house lately, and looking forward to expanding that with more rice options as well. But yeah, the shrimp tacos comes with if you've ever had hibachi and yum yum sauce, one of the key ingredients to the sushi taco or the shrimp tacos is my spicy yum yum. I kind of fused, the spiciness of Mexico into that. So, yep.
What's your website, Greg?
It's just gregmarine.com. www.gregmarine.com.
Cool, man. And who are you passing to, Greg?
I will pass it over to Nathan.
Okay, hello, I'm Nathan. I'm a student from the Netherlands, so excuse my language sometimes. I've done a few side jobs for now, and basically all Ionic. I started at Angular, now working at a company who does Ionic Vue 2, so the 0.0.9 beta, and I'm very interested in this kind of stuff, and always struggled with Firebase. So I'm hoping to learn a few things today.
Cool.
Awesome.
And Nathan, I don't know if you know this, my brother actually used to live in the Netherlands. And
Oh, really?
yeah, and one of the cool things for all of you guys to know about the Netherlands is you guys as a culture are amazing, because the Netherlands has the highest second language literacy rate in the entire world. I think like 99.97% of all people in the Netherlands speak fluently English or another language.
Not fluently, but we can make ourselves quite understandable. That's true.
Yeah.
But we have to, because we're a small country and do business with, all people over the world. So we have to make ourselves understandable.
Yeah, that's awesome. And who are you passing to, Nathan?
Was John already? Has John already spoken or not? John Warrington.
I'm John. I'm actually up in Edmonton, Canada. Been playing around with Ionic, enjoying it, and just trying to learn as much as I can about it now.
How long have you been working with Ionic, John?
Just a few months, actually. I've been doing Angular for several years now, and so I played with the Ionic version, wrapping Angular with it, and like, yeah, let's learn some more.
Awesome, man. Well, it's great to have you. Yeah, and obviously, if you have any questions along the way, I mean, we're all here to help each other. So, and what about your sushi choice?
I'm not a fan, so.
This is your chance to make it right.
That's fair.
Maybe something fried.
Yeah, fried sushi is really good, I gotta say. Awesome.
I have no idea, sorry.
No problem.
You're good.
And who do you want to pass to, John?
I'm not sure who hasn't gone.
David, maybe?
Me and David.
Hey, I'm David. I'm retired for the last couple of years. Used to work in a big corporation. I got to heading up quality and process area, which I absolutely hated. So now I'm back into programming. So a couple of years ago, I dived into learning Angular, all the back end things and no server services that I used to have opinions on but had no idea about. So it was great. So I got into Angular, using Firebase quite a bit, and sort of doing things for my own interests. So diving into things like IoT, kind of the fun things of IT rather than writing corporate type programs.
Amen to that. Yeah. Corporate programs often steal the soul, don't they? Well, awesome. Thank you, David. And I think Todd, you want to go next?
Yeah, Todd, I'm in just south of Salt Lake City in Utah, and just passed my 20 years at the company I'm at right now.
Wow.
Maintain an Ionic version 1 PWA only. We're not in the App Store, and trying to get the buy-off to update it. And now our team for our desktop product has gone to Vue. So now I'm ready to, I'd love for them to just let me dedicate just to rewriting our PWA in Vue, Ionic 5. And yeah, sushi, I don't know. I would spear a pickle, wrap it in hamburger, roll it in rice, and then probably deep fry it.
Hey, that works.
I'm big into burgers and barbecues. So yeah, anyways, yeah.
That's awesome.
And like I was saying, Ionic Utah, we we haven't done anything this year. We've talked a few times about trying to get something together, but we'll get things going again here and try to follow your example here and get out on the interwebs.
Well, maybe what we could do is we can do a joint one for the next meetup. How's that?
Yep. I usually pass along the invitations to Ionic Utah. So
cool.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you guys ever want help, I mean, we've done a bunch of migrations from Ionic 1 to to later. So there's some pointers we can send you, like a cheat sheet of pointers at the very least. Cool. Well, I know we have Bruce, and it looks like some more people joined, but I know we're on time here. So what do you think, Claudio? Should we get started?
We better get cracking.
All right. Take it away, sir.
All right, guys. Well, without further ado, let me share my screen here. And we're going to begin by showing you guys the finished product. I think some of you guys might have seen the video preview I posted on Twitter, but this is it. This is a simple real-time chat application built with Firebase, Ionic, and Capacitor. And on the basic, it handles authentication with email and password. And if I remember correctly, I think I wiped the database for the demo, so I'm gonna have to sign up here. Let's see. Sign up. Oh, looks like somebody already did it. There we go. And yeah, it has basic CRUD operations, so you can create chats, very responsive, very fast. And it'll take you to a chat room, which if you share the URL, it'll retrieve it and it'll let anybody else join. And the capacitor portion is, if you notice, a little location icon allows you to share your location. And I was gonna try this from my phone, but in order for this to work, you have to serve it on localhost or HTTPS. But you click on that, you'll see it takes you to the map and you can see the location. So a simple app, but I hope that you guys can use this as a base if you ever want to build your own chat application. We've uploaded the repo up on our organization up in GitHub. I'll be sharing the link later in the meetup so you guys can take a look at that. And yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So what I've done here is I've made a couple branches just so that we can speed up the process along. And we'll begin with the first one. I know you guys can't see the other screen, but I'm switching over to the other branch that I have here. And first, we'll begin by showing you guys how to use Ionic components in Vue. And just to give you guys a little context, what I've done here is basically run an Ionic start. I'm going to switch over to VS Code in a second. Here we go. So with Ionic start, using the Vue option, it gives you a source folder where it gives you the router and your views. And the other thing I've done here is I've renamed the default view to home. And in here, I've just added some basic styles, not too much, and the logo and the header. So we are going to begin by loading the inputs that you guys saw here. And to do that, what I like to do is just start putting down the components on the template. But after we do this, we are going to have to register them in the component. So I'm just going to get a couple here. And we'll do a placeholder for this one. We'll do name, like you guys saw. And then for this one, we'll do email. Oh, little typo there. And don't worry, guys, you won't have to suffer through my typing much longer, as the other branches are much more advanced. So here, let's do that. Placeholder, password. All right, and now that we have that here, we actually have to register the components. So we were using an ion input. So we're gonna have to import that from the Ionic Vue package. Nice.
And if I remember right,
nice.
Claudio, like, so far this is looking basically identical to the process we use with Ionic React and Ionic Angular, right?
Yes, if anyone here is familiar with React, you're going to notice a lot of similarities as we go along, especially when we get to the portion where we talk about the composition API. Oh, and Jedi, if you can do me a favor, I don't have the chat window up, so if anyone in the chat has a question, please let me know.
Yeah, sure. And I would say, we have a pretty intimate group here, so I would say if you guys have questions, feel free to just
speak up,
off mute. Yeah,
blurt it out. All right, so what I'm doing here, if you guys haven't used them before, I'm using Ionic's CSS utilities, which are a big help in laying down basic layouts.
Oh, hey, Claudio, there is one thing, I'm sorry. Richie said that someone is trying to get into the meeting.
Oh, you gotta admit?
Yeah. I don't think I have the ability.
Interesting. Let me stop sharing for a second. Admit all. Oh, there we go. There's Matt.
Oh, there we go.
Hey, Matt. Sorry about that. All right.
I think I can change the settings too. You can keep going.
Sorry, I'm late. Let me in. Let me in. Blame Zoom's new UI. Please continue.
Very good. All right. So as I was doing, I was just laying down some IAM buttons that are going to serve as our login and sign up buttons that you guys saw. And like I was saying before, the Ionic CSS utilities are super useful. I'm not a big guy on CSS, so they definitely help me out a lot. All right, and after we get these set up, we will get to making our form data. All right, and like we did with the IAM input, let's go ahead and register that IAM button in the component. Excellent. And I think with that, oh, one more thing. We're going to add an IAM text to display error messages as they come along. And I think that should be good for now. The next step, now that we have our IAM components in the template, is we're going to want to have a form data to bind them to. And for that, we're going to go into our setup function, which will serve as the entry point to using the composition API. And what we're going to do here is we're going to declare a form data constant, excuse me, and we're going to use one of the reactive APIs, which will give us a reactive proxy, which will help out with the rendering when these properties change. And for these, we're going to add a name, our email, our password, and the error message. And we have created it, but now we actually have to return it. We have to return it from the setup method here. Form, realize bunch of typos. So good. All right. So now that we have returned it, we can use it in the template. And with reactive API, you have a couple options. You can use the reactive APIs I've used here, and that's helpful when you have objects. But if you just have simpler properties like Booleans or simple counters, you can actually use a ref. And there's a little difference, but reactive proxies are useful if you want to do stuff inside of the setup method. But if you want to make those available as individual refs on the template, you can use the to refs method here. but we're not going to do that for now. For now, we're just going to return that form data, and we're going to start binding that to our inputs. So we're going to use our handy V model, and we're going to bind that to form data name, as we see there. And we're going to do the same with the rest of the inputs. Email and password. And we're only going to display this text conditionally if there is an error. So if form data has an error, and we're going to interpolate that right in here. Oops. Form data.error. Wonderful. All right. So now we should be all set up. It's kind of hard to switch. Oh, I see some people trying to join, but the Zoom bar is conveniently covering people wanting to join. So there we go. All right, perfect. So now we should be able to see the UI that you guys saw before. I'm going to share it so you guys can see. You got a serving here. Can you guys see?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it looks like our buttons are empty. Forgot to put something in them. So let's add a login and sign up. There we go. Wonderful. So now let's see how our data is behaving, i.e. changing. So let's go back to the code. And if you guys have used React before, especially hooks, you'll know there's a use effect. Well, in Vue, we have something similar. We have watch effect, watch effect, and we're going to use that to watch the properties of the form data as they change. So we're just going to log those. Form data. Excellent. And now I'm going to switch over to the window over here. And now as we type, oh, something's going wrong. Form data. We should be seeing something as it changes. Did we not bind it?
What are we supposed to be seeing?
We're supposed to be seeing the data being logged. Oh, there we see something. We're getting something there. We're not gonna focus too much about this here, as the next branch that I have already has this set up. But this is just to show you guys how to interact with the Ionic components and how to use them in the template. But once they switch over to the next branch, you should see it working here. So let me do that. Check out step 2. Let me just, don't care about the changes here. It's very hard to see what screen is currently being shared. Which screen are you guys seeing right now?
We are seeing the Ionic app. Do you have are you on 2 different monitors or something?
No, but it's not automatically switching for some reason. I think I can select sharing the whole desktop. I'm going to try that.
Yeah. That's probably a better way.
Oh, how's that?
Yeah, we can see.
Can you guys see as I changed? Oh, sorry, I should have done that for the beginning. Awesome. So in this branch, we already have the UI that we had earlier, but I've added 2 methods, the login and signup, and these are using Firebase. So now I'm going to show you guys how easy it is to set up Firebase in a Vue project. So all I did here is ran npm install Firebase. I've created a firebase.ts where the Firebase configuration lives. And we're going to be using Firestore and auth for this project. So as always, we got to import those individually. You got to initialize your Firebase app, and all that this file is going to do is export the Firestore database and authentication, so we can use them in other places of the app. And I've also gone ahead and exported the reference to a chat collection and a user collection where those documents will live. And we'll go back to the authentication view, and you'll see that I've added 2 methods here. I've added the login and the sign up, as well as a little helper method, update user, which will actually go ahead and create a user document after the user logs in. I'm not using the typical async await syntax that I usually prefer, because I think this is actually a little bit clearer to see sequentially. But as we can see here with the login, we just call auth.signin, sign in with email and password. And we're just grabbing the value directly from the form data proxy that we created earlier. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you could use 2 refs when you're returning the data here in the return. But and what that does is that instead of calling form data.name on the binding, you could actually just call name, which makes it a little easier, but it's just preference really. And down below, it's similarly with the sign up method. Instead of calling sign in with email and password, we just call create user with email and password. And that should return us with an auth with a user credential object, which will pass to the update user method up here. And that should create the user in our database. And last thing here before I show you, I've added just a console log on a callback on auth whenever the auth state change. So apparently I was already logged in. So I'm going to try to clear the data here, since I don't think I have the logout implemented. So after doing that, we should be seeing null. It's perfect. And now I'm going to sign in with I'm going to create a user with a new email, since I already had the other one created. So we'll go ahead and use my OpenForge email. Feel free to send me memes and articles if you want. And we're going to do sign up, and there's our user there. If we go to our database, we should see it right here. Oh, perfect. Awesome. Well, it's there. So great. That is step 2. Now, the next step that I'm going to show you guys is I'm going to show you how to set up a very, very, very simple state management using the composition API. And I don't know about you guys, but I am not a big fan of state management. So I know Vue comes with Vuex, which is great if you are already used to that pattern. But me personally, and especially for such a small demo, I was looking for another way without implementing a full-on state management configuration in the app. And you'll notice here on our Firebase config file that we are referencing a user store. And if you're not familiar with state management in general, what this store does is it contains a state that we can share across the app. It also has useful actions that we can use to modify the state, as well as selectors, which we can use to pluck out different values. And all I've done to do this is very simple. I've set up a provider here, which maybe not exactly the same analogy with the Angular services, but it provides the user store that we have created here. And all it is, we've created 2 interfaces. One of them is for the user, and one of them is for the actual store itself. We've initiated the state here. And you'll notice that we're using the same property that we used in the template, reactive, to create this reactive state. And we're going to be exporting this, as well as the computed properties and in the actions to modify the state. So yeah, like I said, we have one for setting the user. This is going to be called in Firebase on-auth state change listener. We're going to grab that user after that auth is passed in, and then we're going to call user store.setUser, and that's going to make the user available to use anywhere else in the app. And below it, we have a query to the chat collection, which is not here yet, but this is where all the chats are going to live in the database. And what we're doing is we're just selecting all of the chats that were created by that user. So let me see how we use it in the, oh, I don't believe we did. Oh, so in the app.vue, the provide inject syntax that we use here is used generally in Vue components to pass down data from parent to child components. So all we're saying here in the setup function is provide this user store to the child components. And wherever we want to use them, in our Vue, for example, we should have that available. Although I don't think we use it here yet. But anyway, does anybody have any questions so far? I know I'm going a little fast here.
Hey, just a dumb question. I haven't used Vue. I use Angular just about all the time. But is there the equivalent to observables, subscribing to them and things in Vue, or is this the way you normally do it in Vue? You use the
what is
stores instead?
Well, no, you can use both. Observable Angular is very heavy on observables. And if you're using a state management framework like NGRX or NGXS, you will most likely use the stores, which exposes an observable where you can subscribe to the state.
Yeah.
In Vue, however, we're using the composition API, and more specifically, the reactive, which just takes a normal object and it gives you what's called a reactive proxy. And that is more useful to use in the template, as you'll notice the lack of the async pipe, which you most likely would have seen in an Angular application. So yeah, we don't really need that in the Vue component here. We can just directly bind to the reactive proxy, which is unwrapped here for us under behind the curtains here. So we can just very easily call it, and it modifies it, and it's reactive.
Okay, and you still get sort of the async type behaviors where if something updates on the server side, it'll flow down to the client.
Precisely, and like with the async pipe, where you don't have to worry about unsubscribing, it's similar in this case where you don't have to do anything like that.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Alrighty, so moving along here, you'll notice that the setup function. So let me talk a little bit about the composition API. One of the problems that Vue was trying to solve when introducing the composition API was the separation of concerns in components. Specifically, if you've seen Vue 2 components before, you notice that you have what are called options. So setup is just another option, but before, I'm sure you would have seen data, and you might have seen methods, and you would have seen watch. And that can get very fragmented very quick. So in your data, you might have a portion of your logic dedicated to, let's say, if you're writing a search bar component with a filter, you might have part of it in the data that represents the actual query, and then another part that represents the filter. And then back down in the methods, you would have logic to handle the searching, and then another one for the filtering or sorting, and again with the watchers that you're setting up. So in the setup, it does allow you to do everything in that one function, but as you can see, it's starting to get really bloated. So in this next step, I'm going to show you how to use what are called composables. It's not an official term per se, but it's a way that allows you to isolate and reuse logic within your Vue components. So I'm going to switch over to that other branch here. Step 4, right? Yes, step 4, using composables. And now what you're going to see is that instead of having all that logic in here, I have what's going to seem very familiar to React people. It's almost like a hook called use authentication, and that's returning two methods, login with email and sign up with email, that we can then use inside of our setup function right here in our component. And instead of having to replicate that logic in other components, we can just use that hook anywhere else we'd like. And I'm going to show you what that composable looks like over here. I made a folder called composables and created a file called useauthentication.ts. And all it is, it's a function. We're just exporting a function. And if you're familiar with creating custom hooks, you'll notice that you use other hooks within hooks. And in this case, we're using the router to redirect the user once they log in to the home component. But all the logic that we had previously in the auth component, we just isolated here, and that's going to allow us to reuse that anywhere we want in our components. I've also added here a logout function that we didn't have before, and we're simply exporting each of them individually here. So I think that was my favorite part when playing around with this demo. I initially built it using the previous options API with Vue 2, but using the composition API it made it way easier, and it also allowed me to use the stores for the user. And as you can see here, we have one called chat here, which I can show you. But let me see if we have that in the Vue actually. I don't remember. Audio at OpenForge.io. So we did have it set up. So let me go over to the home component to show you guys what that's doing. Home component. I see. So I think this was the only thing I had pending. I was meaning to create another composable to use in here, but in the next step, I'm going to show you how to make a composable to use Capacitor. So as you saw in the demo, we have the ability to share the current location of the user. Step 5. Oh, no, it's just the main. So here is our use geolocation composable. And if you use Capacitor in Angular or React projects, it's very similar. You import plugins and deconstruct the plugin whichever you want to use. And here, all we are doing is exporting this get current position function. There are some steps to follow if you want to use Capacitor, not too many. One of them is that if you want to use it on web, you have to install PWA elements. This is all outlined in Ionic's documentation. And last thing, a step that a lot of people miss is just you have to call this define custom elements after mounting in your main.ts. But yeah, like I showed you before, we are using this use geolocation in our chat component for sending. You can send a message, or you can send a message that also contains the location. And like you saw in the authentication component, we're using our composable to use these methods that we've exposed. The use chat composable is a little different because it takes in the ID of the current chat that you're viewing. And let me show you real quick. So we are grabbing the ID you see up here in the URL, and we're passing that to the composable. And what that does inside is it's using watch effect, which is similar to the use effect hook in React, to watch that ID that we passed to query for that chat document in our collection. And using the store that we set up, we are setting that in the state. So we don't have to do anything in the template. We're just grabbing that chat from the state, and we're automatically getting the real-time data that's being posted in the collection. It's in the document in the collection. So I know it's not too exciting to see just me chatting with myself. So I'm gonna try to duplicate this here, just so you guys can see the real-time aspect of this. Whoa. Let me resize a little bit here, resize a little bit here. And I think I had this other account set up. Oh, different. Oops. Wrong input. Use Claudito, but they call me in my home. Small little Claudio. For those who are not familiar, I'm from Mexico, just where you might recognize the names. So here we have a couple of chats, but potential enhancement that we can add in here in the future is add the capacity to share these chats, maybe as an absolute URL that you can post anywhere. But for now, we're just going to have to navigate to that URL. Oh, interesting. Can't quite see what it tried to grab. I don't think it grabbed everything. Oh, looks like it kicked me out. Oh, I'm using an auth guard, which I'll show you guys in a second how to implement. Did it again with the name. Oh, the pressure of driving in front of an audience.
I know, I'm into that. That's why I love it when you drive.
Oh, interesting. Well, that's too bad. I don't know if there's something going on where it's messing with the state here, but it is real time. And I'm going to try to show you guys in the Firebase console itself. Maybe we can see that better. I'm going to stop the viewport here. So here we have our chat, and we should see which one is being updated. There we go. So there's our real-time chat. And if we try to do share location, it should grab it, and it should post it. And like I showed you guys earlier, clicking on it will take you to the map.
You're getting a silent applause.
So, thank you, thank you, thank you. So any questions before I moved on to the very simple auth guard that we've made?
I have a question. It might be out of scope, but can you hear me or not, by the way?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, great. So you start a chat and it generates an ID, and that ID is shareable. So everyone with that ID can join the chat, right?
Yes. Previously, I tried it with my phone, but I don't know what's going on with the. Maybe it's because I'm using the same account. But yes, by grabbing that ID from the URL, it should be able to load and join that chat without any sort of password or anything like that.
And how hard would it be to kind of protect that ID from for people entering the chat?
Well,
do you know what I'm trying to say? Or?
Yes, yes, yes. So perhaps something you could do is you can generate a password. So you would have to share the URL, and then maybe share the password a different way with people so they can input that password. And like, I'll actually show you guys right now. So the auth guard we're doing is protecting the guards using authentication, but I'm sure you can make a function that'll accept both the authentication state and also the password to verify if it matches the one that's created inside of the document. That way you can protect that chat route.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Creating the auth guard was super simple. We have a before each method from the router here, and we have in the parameters a to and from routes, which allows you to see the route you're coming from and the one you're going to. And you call next to navigate either to the route that the user meant to navigate originally, or like I'm doing here, if the user is not authenticated, or if you're not going to the auth route to redirect them to the auth route. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I don't know if you guys have any comments or want to see a specific portion of the code.
Where do you keep the Firebase project parameters, the IDs and things like that? I'm guessing it's down in the, yeah.
Yes. So
Okay.
Are you concerned with exposing the environment variables? Or
I was more just curious where they are, seeing you, it doesn't look like you have an environment type folder in here. So I just, like,
yeah,
again, I'm comparing to Angular where I sort of separate the config parameters from the calling in the Firebase libraries and things.
Yeah, typically, I mean, with Firebase it's a little different because even if someone else has your app ID or even any of the keys in here, ultimately what's going to protect your Firebase project are the rules.
Yeah.
But like you said, you could probably have an environment file here and call them from that.
And David, have you used like AppFlow yet?
Sorry, what's that?
Have you used Ionic AppFlow yet?
AppFlow, no.
Okay. So yeah, it's a tool by the Ionic team for basically continue CI/CD, and it handles builds when you're building a mobile application.
Okay.
And we just recently were able to actually get mono repositories working really elegantly on AppFlow. So I think Claudio, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think our next meetup is probably going to be about that, right?
About AppFlow?
Yeah, about like basically setting
using
up
AppFlow with different configurations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We very well could do that.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, maybe we will, since this seems to be a cool topic.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a bit of an imposter. I don't use Ionic. Sorry. But,
yeah.
But I'm interested in seeing all this stuff.
Yeah, because also like when you're building like mobile applications, not only do you have your configs for Firebase, and whatever your server is, but you're also going to have specific configurations for iOS versus Android, right? So we found a couple like cool kind of tricks and a couple of scripts that we wrote that kind of help that process, automate that process. So yeah, I think we're gonna probably do a full meeting about that next time.
All right, guys. Another thing that I want to note, since we were talking about Firebase, is that originally I was meaning to use the popular library VueFire, which makes it even easier to use Firebase with Vue projects. However, support for Vue 3 is not quite ready yet. I checked on the repository yesterday, and the author of the library replied in September that it was very close to being finished. So as soon as support for Vue 3 comes out, we're going to be updating that repository and maybe even coming out with an article showing you guys how to take this repository and adapt it to use the VueFire library.
Would be great.
Yeah, I know coming from Angular, it's great having an Angular Fire library, so it'd be great to have something moving forward with Ionic and Vue 3.
Yeah, so one thing in Angular, so with the library, you can do the offline stuff as well, like take your application offline, so have the data available. Is Vuefire, will that do that sort of thing as well?
It's a good question. I've actually never used Vue.5 before, but since it is a wrapper for the SDK, I would say it's very likely that you might be able to.
Yeah.
Has anyone from the group tried that?
What was that?
I was just asking if anyone else from the group has already tried it.
I have a question. My name is Abhijit and I'm from India. So, anyone, like, say off topic, but just a question like I'm facing a problem in WK WebView for Apple. So previously I was using UI WebView. So now Apple, they are saying they will deprecate UI WebView after December 2020. So now I'm using WK WebView. So there in my UI, I have a list. So each item in the list has an input field. Suppose if you want to edit something, you can focus on that input field and you can edit it. But if I am selecting the bottom list, and the keyboard is hiding the input focus. So did you anyone face this kind of issue? It was not happening prior to WK WebView. It was working with UI WebView. So this yeah.
Yes, keyword issues are amongst the more, I just realized it's raining. Yeah, keyword issues are very common, especially when working with the newer versions of Ionic. But yeah, it often solutions often require you using, if you're using Capacitor in this case, using the keyword plugin to manually hide or show depending on what's happening. I'm not entirely sure. I can picture what's going on with your problem, but that's most likely a possible solution.
That is what I am doing, but what happened? It is working. It is working 90% it is working, but 10% it is not working, because sometimes when your keyboard is up and you are scrolling, that time that screen size will differ. So you cannot calculate that. Suppose the screen size is 100 px. If you open the keyboard, then your window size will be 50. If your keyboard size is 50, then it will show your window size is 50. So it's very hard to calculate.
Yeah, whenever you're doing anything dynamic like that, you're gonna have to write some special logic to handle issues like that, unfortunately.
My question is like, is there something like, I have done it, I have spent around 4 or 5 days and I found a solution, but still I think it's not a clean solution. Is there any plugin or somebody has any solution that should work 100% in every situation, like landscape, portrait, keyboard is open, yeah, everything. So any idea, anybody here?
So hey everyone, this is Matt from Ionic. If I can just jump in really quick. So Abhijit, sorry to hear about that issue. As they said, the keyboard stuff can be kind of tricky. Probably, given the challenge of something that's a very specific issue, it's probably the best path to get a little bit more support would be to open a question on the Ionic forums. I'll post the link for that. That's our crowdsourced forums that both the Ionic team, like myself, and our community, jump in to help. And I say that because not only the power of the community, but with these kind of issues, it's hard to talk about it conceptually. It's best if you can provide we recommend like providing a sample repository, reproducing it, or even opening up an issue on GitHub. It's because conceptually, as you've probably seen, racking your brain for several days, it's kind of hard to just say, oh yeah, flip this switch, do that, and you're good. That's unfortunately the nature of software dev, as we all know. Is
I wish it was like
trickier. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, so I hope that helps you. I know it's probably not the answer you want to hear, but that's the honest answer from at least my Ionic perspective.
I raised one question there in GitHub, also in Ionic forum, but nobody is giving the answer. So I thought, is it a very tricky one or how it is? Anybody is not facing? but a lot of similar kind of issues are there, but it's still open. So that's what my concern is, like, is there any solution or it's not doable?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, that does happen. It's not a catch-all kind of thing. I would say open up, if the issues, I would open up an issue on the Ionic repository on GitHub if you haven't already. And then beyond that, the answer, quite honestly, especially when it comes to iOS and Apple, sometimes there are Apple and iOS bugs that we can only do so much about. And we do work with the WebKit and Apple Teams to try to fix those type of usually UI and, as they said, keyboard issues. So that's all I can say, unfortunately. I'm not as familiar with that particular issue.
And I mean, just from experience too, since the deadline is coming up, my guess is you're going to see more people searching, for that same thing, Abhijit, and you'll probably, see someone answer it, probably relatively soon, because I think a lot of people are probably going through the same thing since WebKit deadline's coming up.
If you want to get more visibility on it, feel free to share the link on the Meetup page, and we can take a look at that as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So I will send in comment.
Cool.
Yeah. Thank
Awesome.
you. Thank you for answering.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're close to time. Does anyone else have any more questions?
Looks like you did a pretty great job, Claudio.
Well, that's great. I had a lot of fun writing this demo. I'm going to be expanding on it, like I said, when Vue Fire comes out. So monitor it, and we'll let you guys know on the Meetup page whenever that does happen.
Yeah, and if you guys haven't already, I just posted the link to our YouTube channel in, I was about to say in Slack, in Zoom here. And, please guys, if you could, please, subscribe. We're a couple away from our 150 subscribers, and then we can start doing YouTube live events, which we're really excited about. So, yeah, and if you have any questions, about like anything else or anything you guys want us to see as a topic, we might actually start doing these more frequently. Maybe every 2 to 3 weeks instead of every month. So, yeah, let us know.
Could you keep doing them online also when the COVID stuff ends, so I can always join?
Of course.
Yes, please.
Of course they
Great.
Yeah, actually, to be honest, we've actually been loving this format. I mean, we actually might, even if we don't know if we're going to go back to doing them in person. If we do, there will always be an online component because we've actually been having a lot more fun, doing these online. So, yeah, man, of course.
Great. Thanks. Then I think it's time for a round of applause. Or what?
Yeah, good job.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks guys for doing this.
Thanks, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.